Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another SwansCast match preview. And it's very early in the season to be talking about this one, but the first South Wales derby is upon us, and I'm joined by Tomas Taylor today. So thank you very much for joining me, Tom. I know it's one of them ones where you just in with enemy lines, so I do appreciate your company today. But you can just introduce yourself to everyone and let us know where we can find you.
Yeah, so hi, my name's Tom. I'm a Cardiff City fan. You can find me on Twitter at Tomas Taylor 4 without the H. And in my Twitter, you'll find my blog called The Sport Addict Corner. It's a bit more just like a general sports kind of page. So it's not going to be too Cardiff City heavy for your viewers, so don't worry about that. Whatever you're into, whether there's a bit of rugby, boxing, Formula One, whatever, then I'll be writing on it, and it's kind of my resolution for the second half of the year now to stop kind of neglecting it as much as I have. So there should be some more stuff up there in the coming weeks and months.
No, I understand that. I love a bit of Formula One, but also I understand the neglect thing. It is tough making sure you get stuff out all the time. So good luck to that. And yeah, I hope people can go and check out some of that stuff. I will say in advance, I was hoping it wasn't the case, but unfortunately, checking my app earlier, Virgin are having trouble in the area. So I think there's a little bit of a delay on the video. So we'll cope the best we can. I haven't just noticed it. But just so you're aware, if you do see a bit of a gap with me speaking to you answering, that's what it is. It's just Virgin saying they're doing maintenance, and hopefully it shouldn't be too long till it's fixed, but we'll deal with it best we can. Anyway, going into this game then, Sunday, 3:00, obviously Swansea are home for the first leg this season. I'm surprised it's actually happening so early in the season. Obviously August, I think it's a bit unheard of, really. But there we go. The start of the season has happened. There's a couple of different results for both of us. But before we kind of chat about this year, can I just get your sort of feelings on how Cardiff did last year? How was the season compared to perhaps what the expectations were and the end result then? How do people feel around the club right now?
It was kind of what I wanted after 2 years before that of just insanity, really, with 2 relegation battles back to back. It's just so draining, and what I just really wanted was a season where we're not involved in any kind of tense relegation battles again. Just something where we can end up mid-table, and more than anything, keep a manager for a whole season. We ended up mid-table. We kept the manager, and it's a lot more fun sounding on paper than in reality, because they were really large chunks of the season, which was just horrendous. When it was good, it was exciting. So like the run we had at the start, and there were a few purple patches throughout the season.
Probably the win against us, yeah.
yeah. But like when it was bad, it was woeful. Like when the football weren't great, it was just there was nothing there really. We were kind of devoid of any kind of style or real identity. There were a few hairy moments around, I think it was January, February time. I've tried to block most of it out of the memory, to be honest. We went on a horrible losing streak. I think we lost some like 3-0 away at Plymouth Argyle in early January or mid-January, which was just that was a low ebb. But like overall, like I can't really complain too much because it is what I wanted. I think what a lot of us wanted as well was just a bit of stability. I think this year now is going to be all about kind of kicking on and trying to get to that next level. But it's always more fun on paper to have a boring, not much going on season. It's just, when it's over by like February, just kind of sucks the life out of it a bit.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Ours was a bit of a roller coaster. So we ended up finishing okay, of course, but didn't always look like that was going to be the case. Okay, so you talked about maybe the style. It wasn't always an identity. It wasn't always the best football, perhaps. There was good times, bad times. Do you think Bullock now going into this season is going to be able to sort of bring more of a consistent style with some more of his own signings, or perhaps like the likes of Aaron Ramsey maybe being fit a little bit more? Do you think that would help the situation?
I think so, yeah. I think with some of our more senior players like Ramsey, I think he needs to manage them just a bit better and game manage them slightly because he played, I think, 90 minutes against Sunderland and Burnley, and he's ended up going off with a bit of an injury in the end. It's like it's just so preventable. But from what we saw at parts in pre-season, there's looking like he's trying to build a bit more of a kind of possession style of play now, playing it out from the back kind of thing, and hopefully with the type of signings he's made and will make before the window closes, we'll see a bit more of that implemented, and we can get a couple more players in who can kind of suit that system. But it was going to take time. But if the results carry on how they've started, then I can see people turning quite quickly, to be honest.
Well, that's what I was going to kind of go on to next. We'll get back to the style that you're building in a second when we look towards more of the match. But the start of the season then, 2 defeats in the league, and we've got our League Cup win over Bristol Rovers, not scoring a goal. I understand, especially away at Burnley, a bit of a tricky fixture to grab at this stage of the season. I think your first kind of few matches actually is quite a tough start to the season, to be honest, looking at the fixture list. But unfortunately, you've got to play what's in front of you, and sometimes the cards just don't line up. Do you think that's kind of the case of what's happening now, or have there been signs in your performances to show that maybe the scores don't necessarily do justice what you're seeing?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. Like a 5-0 loss is pretty inexcusable, to be honest. Especially when you look at some of the goals as well. It was just sloppy defending or just like absolute freak mistakes, which you can't afford to make in the Championship, especially not against a team like Burnley. So I think a big problem is that we're like not taking chances in pretty key moments as well. So like in the Sunderland game, we had a couple of chances. We just couldn't bury anything. Against Burnley, I think Mate hit the post not long after the first goal went in. So, that could change the trajectory of games completely. I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm just saying, it could be a different game. In the Burnley game, it probably wouldn't have been. But, it's just, even if it's just that mental side, if you can kind of, get it off your back that you have your first goal now. Because there have been promising signs. There's been, I think most of the Sunderland game, I thought we played pretty well. We saw quite a lot of possession. We saw quite a lot of possession against Burnley as well. It's just the problem is we're not doing anything with it. And, if you're not going to do anything, if you're not going to score goals and you're not going to win games, it's, as simple as that really is not rocket science.
Can I just check the way he's talking to Cardiff fan right now? Because sounds very similar to Swansea themes at the moment. Not doing anything with possession stuff you're mentioning, yeah?
Yeah. It's been strange. Just like, the first half against Burnley, we were 3-0 down at half time, but I don't think we played particularly awful. Just a couple of, bad mistakes. The defense looked a bit shaky, but it's been weird. Like we've seen a lot of the ball and just say our biggest Achilles heel at the minute is just not really doing anything with it, which is just frustrating to watch.
Okay, so you mentioned the defense looks shaky. I'm right in saying you've just lost one of your key defenders, correct? To Southampton, was it?
Luton.
Luton. My mistake. Sorry, getting mixed up with our defender going to Southampton, Nathan Wood. But I'm a bit shocked that maybe he's gone same league. But what sort of impact do you think that will make? It's big money as well, isn't it? The signing, although maybe not so much up front.
Yeah. So I'm pretty gutted that Matt has gone, but he'd kind of lost his place in the team, and for the style that we're trying to build, he was never the best on the ball. Like he was a good defender, but I think for Bullock's vision, he was probably never really going to fit. And if you can get the fee that's kind of been quoted, I don't know how much it actually was up front in the end, or how much it could be with add-ons. But when you see stuff on Twitter, I thought it could be up to £10 million. You can't really turn that down.
No,
especially for a club like Cardiff. And we've got another defender in pretty much straight away. Guy called Darland. He's come from Belgium, I want to say. He's a Norwegian player. Again, I don't know too much about him, but apparently he can play on the left side of the defence, which is something we kind of need. And yeah, like I say, it's a shame to see McGuinness go, but at the same time, we can't really be in a position to turn down offers like that when they come in.
Yeah. Okay, so looking ahead to the South Wales derby then, you mentioned Ramsey picked up a knock in the previous game. I believe, was it Ralls also went off injured? Are they both unavailable for the next fixture, or was there potential that we might see them feature?
I think we might see them feature. It's going to be a huge call either way. They're the type of senior players you want, especially for us, because one, they kind of understand the fixture, Ramsey especially, but as well, almost just to kind of maybe calm down everyone a little bit as well. It's like, let's be fired up for this, but not get silly. I think our undoing before is that I get flashbacks to that Callum Robinson incident.
Oh, you're lucky last time as well. Mighty, wasn't
I know, yeah. So. It's just, it's a tendency for our players to just lose their head a bit, which is one of the things I'm worried about for Sunday. It's just I have this horrible sinking feeling that someone's going to do something silly. I just don't know who yet.
I'm not going to comment until we see what plays out ahead of us on that, but I wouldn't be too disappointed if it happens again, to be frank with you, to be honest. But yeah, okay, so I was just curious, obviously, for us, if neither of those started, that would be a good thing, I would imagine, for the team to be up against, especially Ramsey. You mentioned about the management of him. Do you expect that he would start if he's injured, or perhaps come on as more of an impact to manage his injury a little bit, or do you think that wouldn't even be a question? If he's fit, he just plays?
I reckon if he's fit, he plays, but he can't play full 90 again. Maybe bring him off after 55 minutes or something. If he can
go sit on the bench with Joe Allen, who's also crocked at the moment. So.
Yeah. Have a little catch up.
Similar themes there. Okay. The last thing about Bullet really then as well. Obviously, I know you got off to a bad start. I don't want to hypothesize about the next few fixtures, but you've got us. You've got Middlesbrough away. Middlesbrough home. Derby perhaps is maybe a little bit nicer, but then Leeds straight. It's quite a tough run. Do you see if maybe you struggle to pick up points during this period, there'll be any questions asked over Bullet's time? Because I know last season he was quite up in the air quite often, but whether he'd even be here this season. I know it all got signed in the summer and he stayed on. Do you think that commitment is there regardless now and you'll get time? Or do you think maybe if it does start getting a bit tough, the questions will just come back?
I think questions will start to be asked. If we get to the Leeds game, or after the Leeds game, having not picked up a point, especially like when you've got Derby, all right, it's away, I think. But
Derby away, yeah.
It is away, yeah. You're expected to win games like that. And, maybe you could pick up a point elsewhere. If you, 4 points after 5 games or 6 games, it's not great. Whereas a lot better than 0 points after 6 games. And I know you can look, it's a very tough start. But again, it's such a hard one to call because I think, the board seem quite committed to him. The more involved members of the board are big fans of his. So maybe they can give him time. But, if heads start to drop and he loses the dressing room a bit, that kind of toughness of the schedule will end up being forgotten about pretty quickly. And I think questions will probably start to be asked.
Okay, you mentioned a bit on the style earlier, so it looks like perhaps you're heading towards more of a possession-based system. So how would you kind of describe what you're doing? Is it out and out, we're trying to keep the ball, we're trying to pass, similar to perhaps what we've been accustomed to down here? Or is it differences towards that?
I think it's fairly similar, really. Kind of building from the back. Beforehand, we didn't really have the players to do it. But now that... I was going to say Horvath's okay with his feet, where I think the first goal against Burnley would go against me on that one. But
it happens to the best of it.
It does,
especially when you first change to that system.
Yeah,
you get caught out definitely at the back.
Yeah, and I think signings especially like Callum Chambers, the fact that he's actively looking for passes and movement, he doesn't look particularly panicked or stressed whenever he's kind of on the ball, which can't be said about some other defenders we've had before when we tried to implement this. And I think he's just trying to build from that and have attackers who won't be afraid to kind of have a go at the defence as well. So from what we've seen so far, Chris Willock's been kind of a change in that, and a welcome change at that as well, especially against Sunderland, who's doing some really good runs at defences. And again, that's something we kind of lacked last year. So yeah, it's kind of just keeping the ball and trying to, attack as much as we can with it, but we're just not scoring at the minute from it, which is kind of frustrating.
I mean, until we played Preston, I was asking similar questions to that in regards to not really doing enough with the ball. I'm not sure if Preston is a good benchmark to judge off yet. So we'll have to see a few more games first, especially with the situation they're going through. You just don't know where they are really with all the behind the scenes stuff. So, but we did play quite well otherwise. You can only play what's in front of you at the end of the day. It'd be interesting, though, to see that then in this derby, because for so long it's been a bit of a conflict and contrast in styles. I do believe we've had a lot of grief from the Cardiff fans about being so focused on possession. So be interesting to see you come down and play that sort of game, and actually be quite interesting to see who manages to top that stat. Even, obviously the result's the most important, but that would be something to perhaps have a look at, keep an eye on, because if you're saying you've outpossessed Burnley and Sunderland so far, going away to Swansea, if you could do it there, that would be quite a telling sign about the direction of maybe the two clubs. So a couple of interesting topics to look at in this game, I think. But heading towards the end of the video then, what do you expect the formation and lineup to be, and who will be the key players for Cardiff City in this match?
I reckon some kind of iteration with like a 4-2-3-1 sort of formation that we've seen, or like a 4-3-3, one way or another, that we kind of seen throughout the season so far. Strike is a weird one. I have no idea who we're going to go with, whether it's Robinson or Kanga. I'd like to see Robinson get a go. Maybe it could be the start of a redemption arc from him from his previous fixture. But it would be harsh to drop Kanga as well. I thought he played all right against Burnley. He was unlucky to have a goal disallowed, but he probably shouldn't have been offside in the first place. Midfield will be interesting. I really don't know what we're going to do there, because it depends on whether Riles and Ramsey are fully fit, and if they are, will they be involved from the start? Will they be more from the bench? I really hope Ruben Colwill plays, just because I'm convinced this is going to be his year to kind of break out a bit and make that position sort of his own while learning from Rambo at the same time. And I think maybe Chris Willock will be one to keep an eye on. He's played well for us so far. I really liked what I've seen from him so far, and it's always one of those ones. It could have gone either way when you sign players like that. But I'm really pleased with what I've seen, and I'm glad it's looking like it's working out. So it'll be interesting to see, kind of, especially midfield. It'll be interesting to see which way we kind of go with it, whether we bring in a couple of youngsters as well, or just try and go cool heads experience and take that approach.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing the lineups. And what about Swansea City's team then? Which ones that you expect to be involved maybe worry you a little bit if we had to do some damage ourselves?
It's a tough one. It's just, it's more the players who just kind of get under my skin a little bit. As a Cardiff fan, is Harry Darling still at you guys?
Yeah, he'd probably be starting centre back.
Yeah, he's one. It's just, he's a type of player where I would love him at Cardiff, and I'd love it if he was the way he was playing for us. Just because it's the opposition, it's just I hate playing whenever we have to play against him, just because he just I don't want to upset your audience.
He's a wind-up merchant.
He just winds players up, and he can get under our players' skin as well. And he's quite good at doing that, which always kind of worries me. Especially playing at your stadium, everyone's going to be properly fired up for it. and that's
He's definitely
one
getting a
thing.
yellow card. So if anyone's betting just put it on. Like probably in the first half as well. So probably for something stupid and handbags and like I don't know, crying on the floor or something. But I guess that's what's annoying, and he knows what he's trying to do. But then you toe in the fine line. Then when is he going to go too far that he's the one that gets the red? But hopefully never. But you always worried a little bit, like the whole thing with Matey last year. Okay, felt like Matey should have got one, but then you're like, right, do you want to calm down a bit now? Because I think you've done the damage, so let's just win the game. But yeah, anyone else that worries you?
To be honest, I don't really know. I think it's always just players just like show up for this one, don't they? And it's always people you least expect.
I mean, they have historically, other than that one we had last season, but then the manager didn't last too long after that. So yeah, Luke Williams obviously had a good start in his Derby record last year. Got them all riled up for it. He was obviously involved under Russell Martin a few times too. So I guess he gets the Derby. So that's a good thing for us. Let's just hope that he can get that level again this weekend. I guess from our perspective, you obviously don't want that, but I think it'd be an interesting game. I do think what you've talked about in regards to the style is going to make this different. And whether you manage to actually come down here and play like that, or whether you perhaps revert back to what you've done in the past, I think that would be interesting to watch, to see if you can actually come down here, play your possession game, because that's not something I think most Swans fans are going to expect to see as well. I think, people who might be looking into content or seeing a bit about what Cardiff are doing this season, considering so early as well, 3 games in, a lot of them might be caught off by the fact that you're playing this different way now. So yeah, it'll be intriguing, an intriguing match. Best of luck, obviously not too much. Can't be allowing you to win this one, unfortunately. But hopefully we'll catch up with you later in the season. It's always nice when you get the return fixture without the risk of it being a bad year in the double-legged fixture. But luckily for us, it's been okay so far. Sorry, I had to get that in there a little bit. But yeah, the last question then, I like to end on a bit of a novelty note, if you like. What is your best ever away day experience that you've had as a football fan? It doesn't have to be Cardiff related. It could be anything that's away from home, based on what your home stadium is.
Oh, okay. I think it probably came earlier this year. So it wasn't with Cardiff, and I was in the home end. But this last year, I'd been living in Glasgow for uni, and I went to a Celtic game back in end of February, I think it was.
Yeah.
They played Dundee, won 7-1, and they were 6-0 up at half-time. Even though it was like...
It's a good game to go to then.
It was. And even though it was like I think it was a random Tuesday or Wednesday night. So like where I was sat with my mate, we were kind of just behind like the Green Brigade, like ultras section.
Yeah.
And it's Scottish football is like, it's an atmosphere I've never experienced before. Like it's part of it is a bit like kind of the Championship and like the English setup, so to say, in the Football League, where you have just like general chanting whatever, but you still have that very loud ultra section kind of just doing their own thing with like flags and banners and pyro and everything. It was surreal. So yeah, I'd probably say that.
It's a good thing to experience. So I guess anyone that's up that way, maybe try and get yourself to a Celtic match, because it sounds like one of them ones you'll never forget, I guess, especially when they're going to win 7-1 or whatever the score is as well. A couple of goals to remember. But thank you very much, Thomas, for joining me. As I said, best of luck, but not too much for this weekend. After that, you can do your thing, just don't finish ahead of us. But hopefully speak to you again later in the season. Appreciate it. Do you want to remind everyone where they can find you and your blog again?
Yep, so you can find me on Twitter at Tomas Taylor 4, Thomas without a H. And you can find my blog in my bio. It's called The Sport Addicts Corner.
Brilliant. Go check that out. Obviously, it's not all Cardiff related, so just sports stuff. So, plenty of stuff to get stuck into if you're a Swans fan. Don't think I'm not looking at that. Cardiff, there's a lot of stuff on there you can enjoy, I'm sure. Thanks again, Tom. Yeah, and we shall catch you hopefully later in the year.